We're online pretty much all the time, right? So, what's actually standing between your phone, your laptop, and all the, well, chaos of the internet? Today, we're going to break down one of the most fundamental pieces of cybersecurity out there, the firewall. Okay, so picture this. The internet is this massive, sprawling city. There is traffic everywhere, 24/7. Now, your computer, that's like your own private building right in the middle of it all. You wouldn't just leave the doors wide open, would you? Of course not. You need some way to control who gets in. And that's exactly where a firewall comes into play. So, at its heart, a firewall is your digital gatekeeper. It's a security system. It could be software, it could be hardware, and it sits right between your private network and the huge public internet. Its job is to act like a filter, constantly watching all the data flowing in and out and making split-second decisions based on a set of security rules. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of how a firewall works, it is so important to understand why we even need one. What are we actually defending ourselves against out there? Yeah, the thing is, the threats we're facing aren't always obvious. Every single time you connect to the internet, you're essentially opening a digital door. And let's be real, not everyone on the other side has your best interests at heart. I mean, we're talking about actual hackers who are actively trying to find a way in. All sorts of nasty malware, like viruses and ransomware, just looking for an opening. And countless automated bots that are just constantly scanning for any unlocked door. It's a nonstop flood of suspicious traffic aimed right at your devices. And believe me, the stakes are super high. Without that basic protection, it's exactly like leaving your front door wide open in that huge chaotic city we just imagined. Your personal files, your banking info, your private data, it's all at risk. A firewall is that first essential lock on the door. To really get this, let's stick with a simple, but honestly a super powerful analogy that gets right to the heart of what a firewall really does. Okay, so first up, imagine your entire network at home or at the office, your laptop, your phone, your smart TV, all of that together is one big private building. It's your space, and you want to keep it safe. And all that stuff zipping around the internet? Well, just think of it as visitors. Some are welcome guests, right? Like an email from your friend or the website you're trying to visit. But others? They're definitely strangers you don't want knocking on your door. And right there, that's the firewall. It is the security guard, standing at the main entrance of your building, checking literally everyone who tries to come in or go out. And this security guard has a very clear job description. They've got a list of who's allowed in, and they're going to turn away anyone who looks even a little bit sketchy. And here's a really important part. They also control which doors are even unlocked to begin with. In the tech world, we call these digital doors ports. Okay, so our security guard's on duty. But how does it know who to let in and who to kick out? What's the playbook here? Well, it really just boils down to this super simple three-step loop that's happening thousands of times a second. First, it inspects every little piece of data. We call these packets. Then it compares that packet's info against its rulebook. And finally, it makes a simple call. Allow it or block it. It's a very logical, very fast process. So what's it actually looking at? Well, it checks things like the IP address, which is basically asking, where are you from? It checks the port, which door are you trying to use? It even verifies the protocol, which is kind of like asking, what language are you speaking? The really advanced firewalls can even take a quick peek inside the data to see the message itself. Now, it's also really important to know that the word firewall can mean a few different things. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. They come in a few different flavors, depending on what you need. The two big ones you'll run into are hardware and software. A hardware firewall is a physical box. Think of your home Wi-Fi router that protects every single device on your network. A software firewall, on the other hand, is a program that runs on your computer, like Windows Defender, and it only protects that one machine. And this is so crucial. These are not mutually exclusive. In fact, for the best security, you want both. Think about it. The hardware firewall is the security guard at the main building entrance. The software firewalls, they're like the individual locks on all the office doors inside. Using both creates layers of defense. And yep, the world of firewalls gets even more specialized from there. As more of our lives move online, we now have cloud firewalls. And to fight off the latest and greatest dangers, we've got what are called next-generation firewalls that use some really smart AI to spot even the most sophisticated threats. So look, firewalls are absolutely essential.
But it is just as essential to understand they're not a silver bullet. They're an incredibly important part of your security strategy, but they are just one part.
So let's quickly recap what they are great at. They are fantastic at blocking unauthorized access, filtering out a huge amount of malicious traffic before it ever gets to you, and just generally reducing the number of ways an attacker could target your system. They are your first, and you could argue most important line of defense. But a firewall has its limits. It can't stop you from using password 123 as your password. If you get a phishing email and you click on a malicious link, well, you may have just invited the threat right past the security guard. It also doesn't replace your antivirus software, and it can't do much about a threat that's already inside your network.
And that right there is the key takeaway. Real cybersecurity isn't about one perfect tool. It's about creating layers of defense. A firewall is your perimeter fence, sure, but you still need strong locks on your doors, an alarm system, and good old-fashioned common sense to be truly secure.
So, to sum it all up, a firewall is that critical barrier, that digital gatekeeper that inspects traffic, enforces the rules, and provides a fundamental layer of protection that no modern computer or network should ever be without. Which, of course, leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. We know the guard is on duty, checking IDs and watching the doors. But what happens next? What are the clever tricks that attackers use to fool, bypass, or just break right through this first line of defense? Well, we'll get into that in our next explainer. Thanks for tuning in.